go. Okay, Becky, take it away.
Official. We're official. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. Um, it's about 10 in the morning for me here on the West Coast. So here's what we're doing today. We are going to learn about what goes into claiming your own self-authority at work, particularly in life too, but why it's important, what happens if you don't have it. So I'd like to make sure you leave with some tools today, and who knows, maybe you'll either reconnect or meet up with some new folks to add to your own network today. So Nicole did a really nice job introducing me. Thank you, Nicole. A few more details here. I'm a career and life resilience coach, and I've been really refining who needs me, who I like to serve, and I'm particularly loving working with anyone who feels like they're an overthinker or analytical. And it's really, and I guess in this day and age, it's hard not to have a lot of decisions in our minds. And I help people figure that out. I particularly love working with folks, mostly women, also men, in tech, STEM, environmental fields, as you go through life and career transitions. I started my career, like Nicole said, about 30 years ago. It was very accidental. I got my job at Microsoft because I went looking for an apartment when I moved to Seattle, and the guy I was talking to worked there, and I brought my resume. So that side note, just ask. That's one of my life mottos. And I originally was a class of 89, if anyone's here from 89, but I took a little time off to figure out what I really wanted to do. And then I decided to go back to Tufts. I'm very glad I did. And now I'm in Portland, like I said, but I was in Seattle for a very long time. It feels very much like Vermont here. And what's interesting in the Pacific Northwest, if you're familiar or not, you actually have to have multiple raincoats. You have to have the dress raincoat, the casual raincoat, the summer raincoat, but it's actually very beautiful here today, which is global warming. So, okay, and let me just arrange a few things on my own screen, and I'll go to the next slide. So a little bit here, just about this might be what I say and to help people recognize themselves when they're interested in coaching, but really what people come to me for is what we're going to be talking about today. It's on the surface, it's like, do I leave this job? Do I try another career? Oh my God, I just got laid off. But really underneath it all is clients come to me because they really need help learning or relearning to trust themselves and then really stand up for what they want and what they need, even to themselves, which is a lot of where that overthinking comes from. And I like to tell a little story. If you've been here before, you've heard it. Sorry about that. But I do this because one point in my life, right when I turned 30, I quit Microsoft. I broke up with a boyfriend. I moved. It was just a lot. And I was like, I'm going to go to grad school. And I didn't really know what that meant or why I wanted to go. And it ended up taking me 5 years and $80,000. Finally went to Carnegie Mellon, great school, good experience in many cases, but it didn't solve my problem of what I really wanted to be doing in my career. So I really wish I knew then what I know now, and I really wish I'd had someone to help me along the way. I got very stuck. So here's our agenda today. Please grab a pen and a paper or a crayon or sticky notes or on your computer, something. And we're gonna do some inner contemplation today. So we're gonna be talking about self-authority, the power of giving yourself permission, where values come in, how you can actually create your own permission practice. We're gonna have a couple interesting discussion points along the way. I don't mind being interrupted. Nicole already mentioned if you can come on off mute. You can put stuff in the chat, and she's going to be watching that for me. So a little bit, there's one of my actual Microsoft IDs. And I wanted to tell you a little story about what happened to me, not just from when I left and had that whole big 5-year decision point, but even when I was there. So I never expected to be in a tech company. I think I maybe walked through the Tufts computer lab once in my time there. Never, wasn't a big deal. And then, but like I said, I really happened into the job at Microsoft and I moved to Seattle. And at first, when I was hired onto the original Outlook team, by the way, the code name before Outlook was called Outlook was Ren, like Ren and Stimpy. So amaze your friends at your next trivia event. And I really was on cloud nine at first, like, oh, a program manager, which is a product manager at Microsoft. It was like I had the variety I wanted and the interacting with people and the learning. And it was just, I had always been so stuck with what I wanted to do in a career. And I thought I found the Holy Grail for a while. Then it got really stressful and I got burnt out and I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I was kind of reorged into a role that wasn't as good of a fit. And I felt like I had no choice but to leave. But I was so stuck in the what do I do? What do I do? People thought I was a little crazy. And so I was a very swirl, that 3 a.m. Thoughts you're probably familiar with. But I finally decided to really listen, kind of a voice inside me asking, like, what else is out there? What might feel more authentic to me? And then if you're a fan of the 90s music, also this song lyric pops into my head. There was someone I forgot to be, which is from the George Michael song called Freedom. And that voice was my self-authority, and giving myself permission to really listen to it really changed the trajectory of my career. It wasn't always on purpose, but the more I tuned into it, the better things were going for me. So what is self-authority? Let's talk about that. It's really about creating your own career story, your own life story, but making choices based on your values, needs, and vision, rather than following what you think you should do. And don't feel bad about following what you think you should do, because we've all been very socialized and programmed, and that's sort of part of being a human. But at some point in life, you want to start thinking and saying, is that really me at this point in my life? So it's trusting what really fulfills you, not your parents. I had a friend when I was in college. She went to Leslie, actually, so not too far from Tufts. And her parents just insisted that she go and be a teacher. And she wasn't bad. She didn't like overly resist it, but you know what she ended up doing 10 years after that? And she even got her master's there. She ended up actually running a construction management company. So sometimes people really shift gears when they really wake up to what's better for them. So it's really the difference also between taking a job because it's a good opportunity versus this aligns with who I am and where I want to go. So if you want to, here's your first question, your first thoughtful question. You can put it in the chat. We're not going to overly discuss this today, but just to prime your pump of thinking, maybe think of a time when you made a decision that felt like it was truly yours. So not influenced by what others wanted or expected. So just, start plopping something in there. We're going to do some more thought work soon. All right. I'm guessing some of these look familiar. A lot of them do to me. So these are career-focused shoulds, are examples of the internalized messages many of us, especially, but not just women, have picked up over time from culture, family, education, media, and even well-meaning friends. Funny story specific to Tufts. I took a semester off because I thought I wanted to do a major or an interest that actually wasn't offered at Tufts at the time. And my Aunt Ruth was so upset. She thought, oh my God, it's such a good school. And what if you never go back? I never had a doubt that I was going to finish my college education and be in a good school. It was just very interesting how she was far more worried about that than I was. So this is just an example. Some of you probably have run into some of these pressures as well. But so many shoulds are really popping up in the career realm. It's also a tough time right now. But it's also true that many of us have had perfectly wonderful times when your careers were well aligned with who you were. Maybe it lasted, maybe it didn't. But because we all change as we grow throughout our lives, we need to expect these transitions and figure out some ways to deal with them. And a lot of that is by listening to what's going on. So let's unpack a few of these things. So the one to be about grateful. I should just be grateful for this job, right? There's a lot of scarcity talking. It's really hard not to be impacted by scarcity in 2025 with everything going on. But there's other options. So maybe there's some things you never really thought too much about to say, well, okay, maybe, what is the worst possible scenario here? And am I actually set up to deal with it? You'll find that often you are. Or I should never leave a job without another one. That really depends on you and your resources. A lot of us are good savers. A lot of us don't spend much. And maybe it's more important for you to kind of invest in that exploratory time than do what whoever else is worried for you says you should. I should have had my career figured out by now. Like, says who? So success does not have a universal definition. It's something you get to define. So here I am. I'm doing that now as running my own business. Okay, let's look at this. So let's do a little discussion here. There is a discussion. Hold on. Question. There it is. Okay. So this is a great conversation for the chat. Maybe Nicole, you can kind of help out here. Where in your career life do you feel most constrained by the shoulds? There'll be a second question coming too. And if anyone
Chat,
wants,
the chat is exploding. This is great stuff in here, Becky. I know
all right, I'm
you
going to take a
it's
peek while people are thinking here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Mary, I just saw yours, Analytical Woman at a Crossroads. That's great. Okay. Well, it doesn't feel great, but nice to see you. Okay. Moving to New York with no job. Ooh, moving to Italy by yourself. Yeah. There's a lot of really good stuff here.
there is a should though, financial obligations,
Yes.
debt, finances are where I feel the should from Mary.
And I'm not trying to dismiss those. I mean, if you remember, if you've ever learned the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? The foundational part is the security and the home and the eat, the food and the shelter. And those things are important. So should keep health insurance. I'm not saying not to do the thing, not to maybe make a change because of those things. I'm offering some additional ways to think about it that could fill in for you what you most really want to do. And maybe you can start making steps towards that.
I'm seeing being the main breadwinner.
Yep.
There's a couple of those. Parenting, I can relate to that one.
Yeah. There are a lot of shoulds in our life, and there's a lot of places where we don't want to lose ourselves. Maybe there's a lot of shoulds Monday through Friday, and on the weekends, you're like, all right, my time. Even if that time is 20 minutes, I'm going to go paint, whatever it is. Yeah. So let's pull up the second question here. Um, okay. What career life move would you make if you fully trusted yourself? Oh, yeah, Doge. I'm so sorry for people impacted here. I just talked to someone the other day, works for USAID, living in Cambodia with her family. She's very impacted. Oh, move to Vermont. Yeah, that's a good idea. I support that one.
Mhm.
Start own business. Yeah. Oh, interesting. So when I hear those things, I'm hearing folks who are maybe ready for some more autonomy or independence, which is
Mhm.
value. I share. We'll talk about that. Portfolio career, really interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you can keep thinking about this. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next, but always food for thought. Okay, so the next one is, let's talk about some antidotes. So we've surfaced a bunch of shoulds. Now what? So we replace them not with rebellion or guilt or something far more powerful, which is permission. Permission can be big or small. It can be as small as I give myself permission to eat chocolate more than one day, whatever your own personal one is. But it really is an antidote. If you think of shoulds like a virus, right? They spread quietly, they drain your energy. So the antidote isn't doing the opposite of that should necessarily. It's listening to yourself. What do you want? What do you need? What do you value? So here's one that comes up for me all the time, like I should go to the gym. I should go to the gym. So maybe here's some antidotes I've come up with for myself. The first one is I give myself permission to rest today without guilt. I felt like crap yesterday. Hung out on the couch. I watched wedding shows. Don't tell anybody. Or I move my body because it feels good, not because I feel unworthy. So that's a really deep societal, not never enough, not good enough, not thin enough. I mean, that's probably a topic for 3 other webinars, but we all experience that in some way, shape, or form. So self-authority in action, this is where we step into self-leadership. So many of us are probably thinking of leadership. I run a team, I run an organization. What if you think about what leading yourself would be like and where permission might fit in with that? You deciding like could be like self-improvement is on a part of that too, but just really how do you want to work and move through your life in a way that you feel like you're proud of how you show up? So this is part of that as well. And then the whose needs are you meeting? This is a really big one where when we live in should mode, we're often meeting someone else's expectations, real or imagined. It could be really interesting to pause and say, whose voice is behind that should? Am I prioritizing approval over alignment? And then going back to the question we just discussed, what would I choose if I trusted myself completely? You can actually start just practicing these on a small scale, which is where we're going further in this presentation. All right, so the power of giving yourself permission. I love this quote from Cara. Giving yourself explicit permission is a radical act, like I just said, of self-leadership. So this is a pretty, for me, a very empowering concept. And I don't know Cara personally, but I am a big fan of her way of thinking and the content she offers. If you're, there's a wonderful podcast on this exact topic of self-authority. And if you would like it, you can get in touch with me and I'm happy to send it to you. But that's where I first heard that concept. I think I listened to that podcast like 3 times in a row. I was so blown away. And I think many of us who end up at Tufts are probably pretty staunch feminists, men and women, but there was something about the way she articulated this concept. It made me realize, okay, I believe in a lot of that stuff. Am I acting on it for myself? I was really kind of shocked. But she's really saying, let's give ourselves permission to do things, and we get to fill in that blank. So giving yourself permission is a way to really interrupt these patterns and create an active practice. All right. So here's some things that are opposite the shoulds. There's a million of these. I happen to focus on some career ones because that's what most folks are coming to me for at least, but you can see here that I've added some life ones as well. I really do eat pizza in the bathtub. This is not fiction, but you can see a lot of these things that if you give yourself permission, leave a job that pays well but drains my energy. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But if you have that urge and want to give yourself that permission, you can start thinking about, okay, well, what else can I do? If I can't leave right now, what else can I do to stop the energy drain? What's another one? Ask for what I'm worth in salary negotiations. A lot of people either haven't learned to do that or feel uncomfortable. Um, I was lucky to take a great class at Carnegie Mellon from Linda Babcock, who written several books on women in negotiation in particular, but I have met men who also didn't know or didn't know how or didn't think they should. There's that should word again, right? Pivot and industries, 40, 50, or 60. I'm 58. I'm pivoting just a couple years ago into this coaching thing. Oh, and I definitely started my own business without a perfect plan. That may or may not be ideal, but learning as I go. So there's a lot of things here that you can start thinking about that really light you up that you want to give yourself permission for. By the way, if you start your own business, you can wear pajamas all day. So, oops, let me go to the next one here. Okay, so now bring out that pen, paper, crayon, eyeliner. So go ahead and just to yourself. If you want to share in the chat, you may, but I want to give you something to take away with you too. So what are your typical shoulds? How do you notice when they show up? For me, my shoulders get tight. My breathing gets a little shallower, and I start complaining to my husband about various things. And what do you want to give yourself permission for? That's kind of a warm up for something coming here too. So we'll do, I don't know, let's do about 3 or 4 minutes here. Give yourself a chance to reflect. And if you need more time, you can have it.
There is a good question in the chat.
Okay, pull it up.
That Sid posed, and others would like you to answer, which is
why don't they should? This is for a reason. Oh, okay. So let me talk about that while you're writing. I'm gonna take a sideways step to answer that. So I happen to be trained in something called positive intelligence. You may or may not have heard of this, but it's a book that's a result of a lot of research on the inner critics in our head. And the saboteurs is what this body of work talks about. And they note that everyone has a master judge, and then we all have our own flavors of 9 different accomplice saboteurs. And I'm bringing this up because where those voices come from are from when we're young. A lot of those maybe negative voices, and then maybe we're putting the shoulds in that category for this question, are there to protect us. So maybe, like for example, some of the accomplice saboteurs, controller, hypervigilant, hyperachiever. There's more. Those are the ones on the top of my head. And I know for a fact because I have that controller one, and the origin story of those is a chaotic childhood. Definitely, check, check. But what happens as we get older is we don't need those voices as much. We're adults. For the most part, we can protect ourselves a lot better. So it's getting out of the habit of using those should voices, those saboteur voices to inspire us. They might work on a short term to, oh, well, I got to get up and go to work today. Okay, there's a should there. But there's always a chance to say, okay, well, what am I looking forward to today? That could shift that should energy or that, oh my God, I got to protect myself energy into something else that just feels better. So I'm going to stop there. Hopefully, I don't know if that answered your question enough for now.
Thanks, Sid. That was a great question.
Yeah, that was a good one. And thanks to whoever said I didn't look 58. Good jeans, sunscreen, zoom filter. Mostly sunscreen. Give myself permission, Robin, to selectively explore new permissions, not rush. Yeah. Okay. So for folks who are kind of enjoying and wanting the mini journaling exercise, maybe if someone can let me know if you're still working on it or want more time or feel done. I think we've gone about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to go 1 more minute and I'll keep an eye in the chat to see if there's more questions. Oh, was there another question? Oh, no, okay, Sid, we just talked about that one. There is, by the way, Sid, I did a webinar on this whole topic of positive intelligence last year, I think last November, maybe. And it is on the YouTube alumni YouTube channel. So maybe Nicole, you can find that.
I
Oh,
put the link to the YouTube channel in twice.
oh,
Um,
nice. Okay, great.
people got the whole channel.
Yeah. And I like when Marcel just said something really interesting. I got to find it in the chat again.
It Marcilli wrote, I'd like to replace I should with I could, and do I actually want to? This helps me shift from a push, which requires a lot of energy, to a pull, which feels more like ease, purpose, values aligned.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
That's a really wonderful reframe. That is something I work on with folks too, is taking whether they're reframes, limiting beliefs, or just the word should on its own is a limiting belief for a lot of us. And I do suggest the could. It really shifts your energy. Should is a big habit for, I would say, most of us. But boy, if you can pause, like Marcel, please correct me, and just swap that word should for could. Huge difference. Maybe a couple deep breaths while you do it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on for now. We already started talking about values a little bit, right? So let's talk about them on purpose. What I've discovered in myself and my coaching practice is, I mean, we're all mostly unconsciously living our life through our values. For example, it's important for me to live in somewhere where there's a lot of natural beauty. Like I never really thought about it, but when I've had the opportunity, like I lived in Washington, D.C. right after Tufts. So I was like, nope, gotta go. My mom moved to Seattle. I followed her, right? So a lot of those things they're not hard to figure out, even if you weren't consciously thinking about it. Here's what happens, especially once you graduate and start to, grow and mature. We forget what they were, what was really important to us. Life happens, transitions happen, and we kind of lose sight with what's important to us. So that's actually the first thing I do with all of my clients is we kind of revisit what your values are and help people get to their top 3 to 5 values in their life right now, because then we can start making more clear decisions. And this has to do with boundaries and shoulds and permissions too, because if you're like, it's really important to me to have transparency in my relationships, for example. And I don't know if maybe somebody lies to you, this and that. It doesn't mean you have to leave that person right away, but it certainly gives a big clue about why you're so upset. So a lot of people are coming to me with like, I'm really upset about my job situation. Why? And we do the values and we discover why they don't feel authentic or fully aligned. Maybe we also uncover some really good reasons to set some boundaries and reduce these shoulds. It does not just in the work situation, but in all of your life, right? If it's really important to you that you be on time and your best friend is constantly half an hour late, well, you can set some boundaries around that. You don't have to. So, but these are just some really great reasons how values and permission really intersect. And I want to say something about that never enough feeling. This one is pretty insidious. I don't know if it's as true for men as it is for women. I feel it. I hear about it more from women, but there's a whole really deep thing of like, oh, I should do this. I should lose weight. I should um, get a promotion, whatever it is, because a lot of us just don't feel like we're ever enough. And so that's one to really keep an eye on. And there's more you're clear about your values, that voice starts to get more quiet. All right, so now we're gonna do another exercise. Pull out your eyeliner, crayons. And this is a shortened version of what I like to do with my own clients. And so what I'd like you to do, and this is think about your last major career decision, job change, staying put, retirement, whatever it was. And what values did you think you were supposed to prioritize? And then look at that again and say, what values did you actually want to prioritize and how did it feel? So here's just a short list of possible values. I'm sure you can think of your own as well. So we're going to go ahead and take 10:34. Let's give it a shot for 3 or 4 minutes. And if anyone wants more time, you're free to share in the chat or to come off mute.
Becky, is this list from any particular website or outreach?
Um, I actually, I wasn't going to stop sharing because I have the link to more core values, but I didn't want to mess up the recording. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's not mess things up.
but if
But
you, yeah,
Diana is asking, what list of values do you reference? There's such a range.
there is
We
such,
do, yeah, we have some values worksheets on our
okay,
website, so I'll put the
that's
link into that. But maybe if you could find it after, we could send it out to all the folks in a follow-up email.
sure.
So
I will say, so Brene Brown has a good list off the top of my head. That's not the
Renee
one I
Brown.
do here, but I would like to
Mhm.
say something about what words or phrases you use. It doesn't matter in a way because as long as they resonate with you, and let me give you an example. So I mentioned the word transparency because that happens to be my top value. And often you can imagine like if someone I'm talking to say, oh, honesty or disclosing or not lying, like those are all kind of synonyms, telling the truth. But for me, my gut instinct was it's transparency, even though any of those other words might sort of mean the same to someone else. Or family. Family is a really big value for people. That could mean I want my family all around me. That could mean I don't want my family all around me. I don't know. But any word that really grabs you is a good candidate. Like what I don't have on here when I should, there's fairness and justice, but the word equity, big topic right now. Is it the same as equality? Not really. But for you, equality might encompass the literal definition of equity. I feel like we need to have some journaling music, Nicole.
What would be journaling music, Becky?
I turned that. I was thinking of a game show theme song called
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've got one in my head. I don't know if it's Jeopardy, maybe the
Yeah.
Jeopardy thinking.
Yeah. Do, 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 do.
Yeah, that one.
That one. Yeah.
I just put Brene Brown's list of
Oh,
values
great.
from
Thank
Dare to
you.
Lead. Yeah, the link to that, because that is a very good one.
Yeah. Authentic. Oh, great. Thanks, Marianne. Authenticity is your top value. Oh, interesting, Michelle. Acceptance and commitment therapy. I had not heard of that specific term.
I haven't heard of it either. I'm going to go
Value.
search on it.
Yeah.
Purpose, family, autonomy, safety,
Yeah.
and comfort.
That's an interesting comment, Mary, about the concept of should being ahead. Well, I'll tell you a value that I hear 100% of all my clients to date, growth. And often it's used synonymously with learning. So that's a big reason why we get to midlife and maybe even doing the same job for a long time and had even stopped to think like, damn, I'm bored, right? It's just, sometimes it can be hard to separate these vague feelings of dissatisfaction. That one really took me by surprise. And that's because I need to keep learning stuff. And I think we all do. Ooh, seeing some good things from Sil Marie. Oh, that's wonderful. Wow. Come talk to me if you get stuck about what's next. Purpose. I went through acceptance. We talked about that one. Oh, integrity, growth, creativity, curiosity. Curiosity is one of my top two. I actually have a tattoo on my arm that says stay curious.
I didn't know that. How is that
Yeah.
possible that we've been working together for a year? Didn't know that about you.
Well, it's sort of required when you live in Oregon. Not really, but there are a lot of people with tattoos here. Looks like someone else is ready to come on in.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
There we go.
All right. How's everybody doing with their values contemplation? And by the way, this process is not really a one and done. So if you're feeling stuck, it's normal. And here's why. Part of it is just having this vast choice. But here's the process that my clients go through is we start with a really big list, this kind of divergent list. And we usually generate that list by, I have folks tell me a story. It could be a story that has something in their life that had a big impact on them. It could be negative, it can be positive, it can be neutral. And then I kind of listen for what I think the values are. And then I give that person a worksheet with their list of draft values. They can add to it, they can subtract. And I ask them to first narrow it down to their top 10 and then do a kind of a scoring of how much are you getting this value met in this moment. And then you do another exercise where you narrow it down to your top 3 to 5 at that point. And we really use that as a foundational element in coaching, whether it's making decisions, figuring out your shoulds, giving yourself permissions. So but it can take a little bit and it can shift. So I ask people to try it on for a couple weeks. Just try on this list for now and see how it feels. Yeah, the competence. Yeah, so that could be Diana. That could be acknowledgement, right? That could be yeah, that's a tough one because it does sometimes depend on other people. And there's also ways to start giving that more to yourself as well. May not be exactly the same, but I'm always encouraging people to find additional ways to get their needs/values met. All right, we're gonna keep an eye on the time, moving on here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about this concept of permission slips. And this really helps combat this concept or this feeling of never being enough. Some of us are probably old enough to remember you had to have an actual paper permission slip to leave your classroom if you had to go to the restroom when you're a kid. Yeah, I'm dating myself, but oh well. But you can start thinking about these literally or figuratively, right? You can literally write yourself a permission slip, maybe when you get up in the morning, who knows, right? And say, okay, I know that I'm really feeling like a lot of pressure around, I don't know, my parents or something. So, how do I want to give myself permission to be more relaxed about that or feel authentic to myself? Same thing with weekly. A lot of us, maybe take Sundays to start looking at our schedule in the week ahead. What if you plan ahead for some of these times in your career or your life where you know you're going to feel some tension that's actually generated from a lot of these should feelings or expectations? You can do the same thing in a monthly. You can do a look back for anyone who may or may not be in the agile world here, software agile world. The concept of a retrospective will be familiar to you. So, what do you want to stop, start, or continue doing as you look through how your week has gone or your month through the lens of the shoulds? And then quarterly. This is just one question I really think is a great story to be always be asking yourself. You don't have to wait for quarterly, but whose career story am I living? I happen to know a lot of doctors' kids who end up in this situation. And it may be fine. It may be just fine for what they still want to do, or maybe they want to be a musician. So, okay. All right. So, what does your permission practice look like? Why don't we again, pull out your writing instrument, jot a few notes, bullet points, full sentences, whatever you would like. How could you envision proactively giving yourself a permission practice? I'm just taking a look. We'll take a couple minutes. I'm taking a look at the chat. Yeah. Security is a big one, Jim. And I think what happens over time is like going back to those saboteurs of positive intelligence. The more we can help ourselves feel safe in the world, I mean, we all do need money, I'm not going to lie, right? But defining what security really means for you. Is it financial? Is it emotional? Is it physical? Is it consistency? Stability? There's again, a lot of these different kind of value words that the more detailed you can get underneath a big one like security, the more it'll help you make your own permission slips. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, Nicole, you shared that. That's great. Okay. I'll look at that later. Does anyone want to share anything you want to include in your permission practice? Yep, start small. Thanks, Sid. I do that a lot in my business. I'll get really overwhelmed. Even like creating a presentation like this, I had to like literally take a piece of paper out and write down the smaller steps because it was pretty overwhelming. Take time to make important decisions. Okay. Permission to be scared of what is next and permission to make mistakes. Yeah. Feel the fear and do it anyway is the name of a book from the 90s, I think. Gratitude. Nice. I don't think there's any good or bad, Ian, doing the job. I think the role our jobs play is different at different times in our career. I will tell you, I talk to a lot of folks in my own age cohort. They're just like, I know I got to work, but my satisfaction and growth is coming elsewhere. That's okay. Ooh, take time for your creative writing career. Yeah. Friend of my mom's, when she wanted to start writing, I remember this story. Can't remember her name right now. Bonnie. She would just like make herself sit down in front of her computer like every day at a certain time. It didn't matter if she actually wrote, but she was building that habit. I guess it was a bit of a should, but I think it was incorporated into the want so that it would really encourage the habit of writing and avoid distractions. I love that, Erica. Proud of the steps. Yeah. This is a point in time when the career search is a zoo. I mean, that's not even the best word for it. A swamp? I don't know. Somebody come up with a metaphor for me. And people are getting hired. They are. But it's taking resilience. And I think that's what Erica's expressing right now. Right? Permission, maybe permission to be disappointed if you don't get what you want to. I'm building a business. I have to give myself permission to, like, ooh, that sale didn't come through. I really, really like that person. But there's so many people in the world. There's more out there. And going back to that concept of scarcity I mentioned, scarcities and the shoulds are very closely aligned. I've heard other people talk about gratitude here. The more you can unhook yourself from that scarcity energy, the better you're going to feel. So, okay. So we're rounding the corner here, everybody. So these are just some questions to take with you. Where will you claim that self-authority? Where will you explore? How might you explore permission practice? How can your values help? How will you refine them? Where do you need support? So, okay, I'm going to officially open up for any questions at this point. Anyone have anything they're dying to ask? You can do it in the chat because I'm looking at it, or you can just speak up. I love that, Christine. Permission to let more than my value define my worth. Yeah. There's no good or bad permissions, by the way. I like that one.
I have a
Okay.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have clients or have you seen people be successful in having a permission practice and living out their values within a situation that has not been aligned with their values or healthy or good? Being able to shift without having to chuck it all and walk away.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Can
So
you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah.
And kind of doing it within a situation because you maybe have some shoulds that are valid, like need to keep earning money, whatever, things like that.
The person who comes to mind, and just so you know, coaching is fully confidential, so I'm not going to share a whole lot of details, but I'll share enough that I think to give you a flavor. So the person who comes to mind was a really high-level director and finance director, and it wasn't what her original career was, and she was experiencing imposter syndrome and boredom, which is a funny combination. And so she came to me, and one of the main framework I use to help people work through this stuff is called design thinking. You don't have to know what design thinking is, but it's a problem-solving methodology that helps you take these really small, safe steps as you work through a decision. And what we discovered in working together, and particularly with her values, was she realized that if she actually gave herself time to learn more about the subject matter that she was, leading people in, that made her feel a lot better. And she also realized, as we're talking more of the good things in her situation and how, again, values, how much of her career path and at that specific employer was meeting more values than she thought. So I guess it goes back to self-authority, is really looking at some specifics. What can you change? What can you shift? What do you already have? What can you adjust? And so she, actually her testimonial is on my website, but she talked about being more comfortable giving herself more time to make any big difference. She started off wanting to quit and she ended up feeling like, no, I'm okay here for a while. So there's a lot more in your control than you think there is.
Yeah. Thank you. Super helpful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love that, Elena. Permission to prioritize. Okay, we'll see if there's more questions. Okay, your question too, Danette. Great. How does love relate to shoulds? Okay, I might need a little more specifics there, Ian. If you're comfortable either typing or saying.
And Becky, I'll add, while there's not a question and while Ian is maybe clarifying, I'm going to be hosting a 4-week career design course for alumni in October through the Mission Collaborative organization. So more to come on that. It's a
Wonderful.
it's a great program that you and I haven't talked about yet. So I would
Okay.
thank you, Becky. But I'm excited about that. I'm going to start to offer those a few different times a year. And October will be our first.
Great.
And career design is applying design thinking to career and life, like Becky just said,
Yeah.
um, which is an approach that we use in Alumni Career Services and in the Career Center as well.
It's a really great technique, and it's just a lot of it is like the first part. I add in a lot of this a module on decide who to listen to, and
Mhm.
that includes the values work we've been talking about. It includes uncovering what your own specific saboteurs or inner critics are. I do some guided meditation on your future self, and so it's a really good foundation so that you can get kind of inoculate yourself, I guess, from some of these shoulds before you even start the process of deciding what you might want next. So, okay, so I'm going to move on. So I'd like to offer everybody here, and you can use that QR code to fill out this form on the left, is if you would like a free coaching session to help you uncover some of the things that you want to do next, or your own permission practice, or maybe you have a particularly gnarly should situation, or Ian, if you want to talk more about the love question, I'd love to chat with you. Oh, and here's another question too.
We
Self-authority.
do, yeah, we do. Yeah, that's what Sarah. Can you
Yeah,
define self-authority and maybe offer some resources on this concept?
absolutely. So I can share some of that. Yeah, and self-authority, it's kind of be kind of like the values that I said earlier that you will, it's best if you really define that, what that is for yourself, but really looking at your shoulds is a good place to start. So here are some resources now that we're talking about that. And what I'm gonna kind of, wow, those images are messed up. That wasn't like that before. Anyway, I'm just gonna talk through them. So the woman who talked about Carl Lowenthal, this is her book. It's called Take Back Your Brain. This is a really great book. You can also just go listen to her website is the New School of New Feminist Thought, and her website is called something that includes a big swear word, so I'm not going to say it while we're being recorded. But this is a great kind of compilation of so many of the wise things that she talks about. This happens to be a list of more values. I think it might be the Brene Brown one. The Like I said, if you want that self-authority podcast, I'm happy to dig that up for you. Over here, Playing Big by Tara Moore. She actually went to the same coaching program I went to. It is focused on towards women, but I do think many of the concepts are absolutely applicable to all of us. Even some of the details she talks about are sort of big philosophical things and smaller things like how do you show up in written communication? Do you say, or verbal, I just have a question? Or I'm so sorry to bother you, but can you get back to me like you said you're going to? So there's a lot of interesting things. Like I think on her website, there's a checklist for getting rid of a lot of those hedge words or expressions is what they're called to kind of check your own communication. This book that says badass, that's a really good book. I've talked in previous webinars with this audience or Tufts about the concept of the double bind for women. You're either expected to be really smart or really nice. And so this woman who's a social scientist has talked about how to be both in some specific examples. And Good Girl Deprogramming, I actually know the author of this one. She's wonderful, Michelle. So she's written a really fantastic book on how to unprogram yourself. And a lot of these books have a lot of these same underlying deprogramming concept. Yeah, we can do that, Cami. Sure, we can include a link. So that is it for me. And as a special treat, there's me at 18, my Tufts University ID, when they used to include your social security number. So,
Love it.
yep, my little pudge face.
Oh, I never get tired of that on your last slide.
So again, if you want a free session with me, talk more about your situation, I'm more than happy to offer that to you. And you
Thank you.
get
We've
it
got
there.
lots of things. Becky,
Yeah,
thank you for this.
my pleasure.
It's always a great conversation. Um, and the chat was just exploding today. I tried to keep up every night.
Yeah.
A lot of validation, a lot of affirmation and conversations.
Thanks, guys. Yep. And I just saw Erica J90. Hello, hello. Yep.
So
Wonderful.
more to come from Becky. New topics, right? We've
Yep.
got some exciting things that we're talking about. And oh, Elena, how do we get the free session? Is there a
Yeah.
link?
So let
QR
me
code?
actually put the link in the chat. If you give me a second, I'll tell you what
And
it
we'll
is.
send it out. We will send it out. We've got
Yeah.
a follow-up email here because lots of people were asking for things like the links to the values
Yeah.
list, card sort, more about the resources, I think, on your last slide. So I
Right.
will information about my October career design program. And again, thank you, Becky. It's great to have you back
Sure.
here. And Becky was on campus actually at one of the reunions.
It was so good to be back. So here's a link to the free session too. Yeah. I didn't know there's a T stop on campus. Oh my God. Do you know how many miles I walked trying to get to Davis Square? I never had a car when I was in school. So
Right. They did. They just brought the green line all the way down. It's right in front of my office.
amazing. That is just
Great.
the snow. Yes, Danette. Totally. Yeah. Yep. It was really good to be back. Really good to meet Nicole in person. We've been, connecting virtually for almost a year by that point. So I just put a link to the free session there, and we'll absolutely do a really good follow-up email with all the things that you've been asking for. So
Mhm.
any
And
final,
the
yeah,
video,
yep.
the video will be up, I promise,
Nice.
on our
Yeah.
YouTube playlist by Friday afternoon. And there are, I think, like 50 other webinars on my
Yeah.
playlist around that number. I could be wrong.
Good stuff, you guys.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to take off.
All right. Thanks,
Very,
everyone.
very good week, everybody. Hope to see
Bye.
somebody soon. Bye. Oh, actually, Nicole, we're staying. So,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Do you want to stop the recording?